to do today is just a Materio basics demo. We're going to go over sort of the fundamentals of the system, how it can help you get all those decisions out of your head and into a platform like Materio, where all of your team can access it and be organized and keep everything in place. So I'm going to jump right in. We've got 30 minutes, and there's a lot that the system can do. So I want to make sure that we try to cover some of the main sort of use cases and the reasons why you might want to use Materio. Again, as people come in, if you have questions, drop those in the chat and I am happy to answer them. All right, so jumping right in here, I am in a project in Materio. Of course, you have a dashboard where all your projects live, but this is what a project will look like once you're in sort of the project itself. And on the right, we've got visuals over here. You can see I have a floor plan. I have a stack of pages here with additional elevations or plans. You can build out inspiration boards in Materio or concept boards. You can upload anything that's a PDF. So if you have renderings from outside of a system, you could upload those here. If you have boards that are created in another system, you could upload those here as well. And then as we get into actually building out scope and sourcing product, we can actually put those into a product board as well. And so hopefully we can show that today. We should have time. But the cool thing about Materio is you're able to really keep all of your documentation and your visuals here for your team. And this is going to help them know that this is the source of truth. This is where the most up-to-date version of the floor plans or the visuals are. It's also going to help your client visualize what's going into their project. So, if you're working on designing a 3,000 plus square foot project. We have people doing anything from smaller than that all the way to 20,000 square feet spaces. You're going to want to kind of keep track of those decisions, not just in a list format, which a lot of you might be doing in a spreadsheet right now, but you're going to want to do this in a visual format. And most of us are designers. And so that's sort of the way we think is, hey, this is visual. Let's make sure that we've kind of checked all the boxes. So visuals on the right. And then over here, we're going to start to build out our scope of work. You can use Materio Scope Starter. That'll be here for a while. We are working on something where you can have more of a template, a customized template to get started. But for now, we're just going to use the Scope Starter, and that's going to help us think about what is in this project. So usually the person on your team building out the scope of work is going to be pretty familiar with the project. They may have even been part of space planning or kind of conceptualizing this project. But if they're not, if they're purely an estimator and they haven't spent much time in the plans already, they can go in, zoom around, look at things and say, okay, what are the rooms that we're going to need here? We've got kitchen, primary bedroom, primary bath, another bathroom, living room, pantry, office, library. This house has it all. You can also come in and customize. So let's say we're doing a pool house or something, and we want to add a custom location. You can absolutely do that right here. And you can also do this later on once we get into our scope of work. And then we're going to think about the categories of work that we're doing on this project. And we call this categories because we like to think of this from sort of a trade perspective. So if you're design build or you're operating design running the project over to a different builder, this is going to be really effective for that. If you're strictly doing design, you can kind of skip most of this. We do want to offer design services, so I'll add that in. And then we're going to do electrical, which is like lighting, plumbing. We're going to do tile. And you'll see that these little cards or chips pop up here. These are just suggestions. So if you're doing electrical, you may have a chandelier, a sconce, a ceiling fan, etc. These are just kind of suggestions. You don't have to use these, but it is a starting point. So again, I selected kitchen, I selected plumbing. Materio is just making a few suggestions here for me so that I don't have to enter in those later. So I'm going to go ahead and select some of these, and then we will go ahead and add these in. Now we won't probably get to estimating all of this today, but I just want to show you kind of what's possible. All the way down to furniture and soft goods. Again, we're working on a more customized template for this, but this is a great place to get started if you're just learning what Materio is capable of. So next we can set our budget, and that's going to be specifically for this project. When I created this project, I set an overall budget of $300,000. You can always change this in this moment, and you can also always go by category or by location. So if you're working to hand off specs to a builder, you might go by category because that builder may have given you allowances for those categories. If you're working as a design team and you're communicating directly with your client, sometimes clients like to think about their projects via location. So how much money are we putting into the kitchen? How much money are we putting into the living room? Katie had asked if you can add your items if they're not listed. Yes, you can do that once we get to the scope of work, which I will show you in just a moment. So right now in the scope starter, you can't customize those or add items, but you can in just a second. So we're going to skip the budgeting for now, just because we don't have to budget everything, but this is a great guideline. So if you're working with a team, and especially when you have junior designers and they're sourcing products for you and you're really trying to stick to a budget, this can be really helpful to just have that as a guideline. And then on each project, you're also able to set up a specific fee structure. And the reason that this is per project is because you may be, operating a design build firm and you may be doing strictly a design project. And if you're operating, just a design project, you may want to just do markup on all of your products because you're buying wholesale. But if you're running a design build firm, and you're doing cost plus, you may want to do a project fee, or maybe you have a 10% procurement fee on top of everything. You can use a combination of these once we get into the scope, but this is kind of setting up your default. I like to suggest for designers, always putting in a markup here. Maybe it's 60%, maybe it's 100%. If you're buying a wholesale, this is really just guaranteeing that you don't miss something and you don't forget to put some sort of markup here. It's kind of a security blanket, if you will. So we're going to hit next, and then we're going to operate wholesale, and we're going to collect sales tax. So in this case, you would just put in the sales tax rate of the project and where the items will be shipping. All right, we're going to create our outline here. And so there's a lot kind of upfront, I guess, to set that project up, but I think it's really important because the really amazing thing about Materio and sort of what we're trying to help shape the industry to do is practice more planning up front. So if you can plan a little bit more up front, make sure you're strategically thinking about what's going into this project, you are more likely to have a better outcome as far as profits go. You're going to know exactly what you're making, and your team is going to be super organized from the beginning. There's not going to be scrambling to figure out if we forgot something. So we're really focusing on spending a little bit of time up front, which is not always the most fun thing, but what it does is allows you to be prepared and to plan. All right, so we've got our scope of work here, and you can see that it has started to sort of outline what is needed based on what I selected. Now, Katie, you had asked a minute ago if you could add custom items here. Absolutely. This is where we're going to start to actually connect the floor plan to our scope of work. So I'm actually going to add in the kitchen and the living room here. I'm going to drag living room, the chandelier to the living room. And then actually in the kitchen, I've got pendants and sconces, but in the living room here, I actually want to add in sconces. So I can just click and add whatever I need to add here. And this is going to happen. This is something you need to be very familiar with in Materio, is just adding items in, because most of you are doing, bespoke projects, you're doing luxury custom projects. You're not just going to have an out of the box, project. We're going to be customizing this based on our scope of work. So you can definitely add things in. I'm just going to hit enter. Before I do that, you'll notice I have this little selection paint roller turned on. That just means that this item is a selection. It means, and what that means in Materio is that I have a selections workspace here, and this is something that can be sourced. There can be a product put on it or a custom design. This is going to be approved by my client, and it's going to move through the approval workflow. So this is really the way that we know, hey, this thing really needs client sign off. We're going to double check it. We're going to order it, all of those things. That is a selection Materio. All right, so we've added a custom item here. And in this case, I actually just want to estimate. So I'm going to say sconce is $500. You'll see that my markup and my tax are already there. If you want to get really specific, you can add in shipping information, and you can adjust your markups on the shipping and all these other cost parts here. Now, like I said, we're about to launch a really big feature, probably one of the biggest things we've ever done to sort of overhaul Materio and its architecture, and that is components. And I'm so excited about components because it's going to give you so much flexibility in building out custom furniture and building out products where, let's say a shower system where you have multiple back-end pieces, but your client just needs to approve the front end. So that's coming within the next, should be by the end of February. So check that out once we announce it. But I've got this here, and what I'm going to do is start to mark the plans. So I'm actually going to zoom in on this plan, and you'll see here, estimate by marking the plan. In Materio, one of the biggest things to kind of understand and that people love is that you can connect your scope of work to the floor plan. So I'm going to use our point marker, and I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to put these sconces here, and I'm going to hit save. And you'll notice when I put those little markers, Materio is estimating the quantity for me. So I'm going to hit save. And then now it's estimating exactly what my client is going to need to pay and what it's going to cost me to get these two sconces. So I can use the area tool. Let's say I wanted to, actually I'm gonna use the polygon tool. Let's say I wanted to kind of map out where the chandelier was gonna go. Let's say it's gonna be a really big round chandelier. I can do that. Now, of course, this is square feet. So we're just gonna change that to 1 unit. So there's a lot of different ways that you can estimate products here and items. And I'll show you another example of using the area tool that makes probably more sense, which is, let's say we're estimating this bathroom here. Again, we're gonna say $10 a square foot. I'm gonna go ahead and mark the plans here. I'm gonna drag over this and it's gonna tell me exactly how many square feet I need, and I can add the waste there and hit save. And so now I have, again, a really accurate estimate of not only what my client is going to pay, but also eventually what I'm going to order. So without having to use a really complicated takeoff software, without having to follow up with a builder, it's very easy for you to understand exactly what you need to order. So this can be really great for building those relationships with builders as well if you're a design only, because it makes you look really put together and it's really accurate. So as we build out the scope of work, we're just going to start to go through, again, look at custom things, see what we need to add. You can also use the linear feet tool. Let's say we're doing custom cabinetry here. I can use the linear tool to mark the cabinetry that's needed. And this is just going to measure out things by the linear foot here. And again, this can always just be a starting point, but I can save that. There's 35 linear feet, and then of course, put in my rate for linear foot here on custom cabinetry. So again, this is a loose estimate. This is kind of a general guess, but this is gonna make you very prepared and sort of agree on a budget. Now, before we get into the selections workflow, one thing I didn't talk about, which I think I should mention before we hop over there, is if you are the firm, which is most of our customers, who are doing your drafting work in-house, or you're working closely to design floor plans and show those to your clients, then I would highly recommend inviting your clients into Materio earlier in the process. Because what you can do is invite them into Materio, upload your floor plans, and then communicate back and forth with them on the floor plans. So this is great for communicating with the client. It's also great for communicating internally. So I can make this an internal conversation. And let's say the person on your team doing the drafting work, you mention them and you say, hey, Andrea, please change this opening. This is a great way for you to communicate as the lead designer on the plans to the drafts person exactly where it makes sense, which is on the floor plan. And then they can just replace this with a new version. And as you can see, we have version control here. So they can replace it, and then you can view previous versions if you ever need to look back or restore something, or if your client has questions about what was the previous version. It's really accessible for you to just pull that up. So I just wanted to mention that the floor plan and the communication on the floor plan is really effective, even at the earliest stages of space planning and sort of conceptualizing what the project will be. Now, I know I also mentioned this before, but there's boards and Materio. We have an entire tutorial on the boards. We are continuing to work on making this great. So just go ahead, and if you're interested in that, reach out to us or check out our YouTube channel. There is a video on boards. I'm not going to spend too much time building out boards because it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so, and I'm sorry, I'm breezing through this. I talk really fast, everybody. So again, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. All right, so we're gonna head to the selections workspace. So once we have these items built out in the scope of work and they are labeled as a selection, that means that, again, we can put a product on it, we can use the clipper to pull from the web, we can upload custom drawings of custom built-ins, whatever you need to get approved by your client and hand it off to a trade. This is where you're gonna put it. So you can see here, let's pretend that we're doing this bathroom. I'm gonna go ahead and pull in some options. Let's say I really like this one for the shower. So I'm gonna pull in 2 options. Again, I'm just pulling from my library. So your library is built out by your entire organization. So anyone on your team can clip or add items to the library. When you come into Materio, this is probably going to be empty because you don't have anything in here, but it's very easy to go and clip things from the web, and I will show you that in just a minute. So I'm just going to add in a few options here so we can get a nice picture. We'll do this, 2 options. And you can see as I start to add in these products, it starts to look really nice and pretty here. I can see all the things that I'm working on. Um, I can filter down to what I'm looking for. Let's see if I have tubs. So you can see I have these subgroups here. Again, you can build out these subgroups. You can customize those yourself. Um, and so you can easily sort of pull in different things. Go to shower systems. So not that you always necessarily give your clients 2 options, you may be sort of a comprehensive, be offering sort of a comprehensive design package, and that's totally fine. You could present just 1 option to your client, but Materio does give you the ability to put these options in to look at things like lead time and items and all of that, pricing, and see where it's over budget or under budget. And you can even drag these around. So if you wanted to create different schemes, like the dark scheme and the light scheme, you can put everything dark in the front end. And that's going to be really beneficial when you go to create those product boards, if you want to showcase those to your client. All right. So I'm just going to add in a few more things here, and then we'll go through the approval process. Okay, I think that's good. So now you'll notice that everything here says ready to send. This means that I have a product on the item and it is available for me to send over to my client for approval. Now you may have an internal checkpoint or workflow, and you may want your lead designer to come in and, again, discuss this option with you, make it a team discussion. They may say, you know what, I don't want to go with brass on this. Let's not do that. So this is just a great way to communicate internally and with your client eventually once you send it to them on specific products. And so you can definitely use this communication on products to communicate about things that you don't want. Also, you could get your lead designer to come in and just like gut check everything. And if they didn't like it, they could remove it. And then they could add in a different option from the library. Maybe they really want to go with the darker finishes on this one. So they could definitely add those in. And now once I am ready to send it over, I'm going to hit send. You'll see that I have all the selections here. If you wanted to filter down by certain locations, let's say you have hundreds of selections ready to send, but you don't want to send everything to your client at once, you can filter down by location or category. Maybe we just want to send the tile over, etc. You can do that here. Now at this point, I usually have a client invited. I'm just going to add one really quickly to my account or to this project. And we'll go over pricing visibility later, but generally speaking, when you invite a client, they're not going to see any of your markup or anything like that. All the defaults are there to protect you. So we're going to send this invitation over, and now I'm going to select the client and send it. If you have like a husband and wife team who are your clients, you can definitely send selections to both of them at the same time. It just takes one person to approve. So now it's cleared out of my open workspace. Now I've kind of got the other things that I need to take care of, and you'll see that awaiting approval, the selections are moved to awaiting approval. So now when your client gets the email and they click the link, it's going to drop them right into this workspace where they can see the awaiting approval items and they can go through that. We will look at it as a client here for a second. So I'm going to head over to the selections workspace. Again, they're going to be dropped in right here. They can open this up. They can see if you've given them pricing visibility, they can see their, what they're going to have to pay for this. They can make approvals. They can also come in and decline things if they want to. They can leave a note here, I don't like this. I'm not really sure I like this vibe, whatever it is. So they can communicate with you. And then they can obviously come in and make approvals. Now, as they make these approvals, they can also see the other things that they've approved in the space, which provides great context for them. And obviously, if you've added a description in here, the descriptions are client facing, so you can change that however you like when you're clipping products, but that is client facing. There's also an internal notes section, so we can always do that. Now, obviously, I'm in my account just viewing as a client making these approvals. We would encourage you to invite your client so they're logged in and authenticated and signing off on everything. But it's really pretty simple. They can also, click into images, view them really large, scroll through them if you have multiple images. And so it just gives them a space to feel like they can really see what's going on. I like to say they're kind of visualizing their investment, if you will. And this gives them a lot of autonomy in making those decisions. And again, if you're just presenting one item, that's totally fine. We still want them to go in and just confirm and make the approval, just so we know that it's kind of ready to go. So now that we have this confirmed, you can see there's nothing in this space, and now it's all in the confirmed workspace. And this is where things start speeding up for the firm, and we kind of get our ducks in a row, and we know exactly what's been approved, and we kind of start to move into the invoicing and the ordering phase of things. You can view this in a table as well. So this is a great view of just seeing information, seeing where the status is, if there's lead time, anything like that, more details. This is a great view. And you can always export this if you need to, but that's really not applicable in the moment. But this is all here, and we can come in, we can change statuses and all that. But instead of doing this manually, I'm going to walk you through how you actually invoice and order things in Materio so you can kind of understand that. So all of these items are approved. That means we are ready to get paid for them. Now, I didn't go over sort of like beginning invoice processes. Obviously, you can collect a retainer on items or services. You could collect a deposit on things. A lot of the firms in our system do that in a variety of ways. So if you get on board with Materio and you have questions about like which process, which step should I take, or if you want to tell us your process, we're happy to help you. There's obviously all of that kind of baked into the system. But I'm going to go over to finances. And in this moment, for me, I want to collect payment on these products before I place the orders. So I'm going to go ahead and hit new invoice. And again, deposits, invoice, that's sort of a accounting question that you might want to cover with your accountant, especially if you decide to integrate with our QuickBooks Online integration. It hits your books in different ways. So just again, reach out to us or ask your accountant. But I'm going to send an invoice, and I'm going to go in and add my project scope. And here you'll see I can filter down by everything that is approved, and I'll just add these to the invoice. Now, again, it's up to you, but you can drag this if you only want to collect a percentage. Maybe I only want to collect 50%. Maybe I want to collect 100%. Whatever it is, you can add it to the invoice there. You'll see pictures on here. I'm going to go ahead and title this FF&E deposit, and you could make this more specific, plumbing fixtures, whatever, add the memo. If you want to collapse things and you don't want to show information, you can organize them by location if you want them to see everything by location. And then also you can put your legal terms down here at the bottom. So if you have any disclaimers, about shipping charges or custom orders, all of that can go down here at the bottom of your invoice as well. And then obviously we've got payment through Materio. We have a Stripe integration, and we also have Materio Pay that is in early access. So you can get paid right through Materio on these invoices. So we're going to go ahead and send this over. Now, again, if you've got QuickBooks connected, you're going to see this little loading symbol. Once it's synced over, you'll see the check mark, and here's a link here where you can easily open that up in QuickBooks if you need to. I'm going to open this up, and for the sake of this, just say that we received a check. So I'm going to say we received a check, and if in the case that you received a check, you might want to email your client or send a notification to them that you received it, you've deposited it. So in that case, you could definitely send over the payment confirmation via Materio. If you're playing catch up when you're kind of getting into Materio, you don't have to do that. You can kind of uncheck that box. But now these are paid. And the cool thing is, if I go back over to my selections workspace, you'll see that these are all 100% paid for. So this is really great because I now know these are paid for. Again, if it was partially paid, it would let you know here, but now I can go ahead and order them. So if I head to the orders tab, this is going to be auto drafted purchase orders based on the vendor. So all the items that I have vendors on, it'll be auto drafted here. And that's actually auto drafted after approval. So if your process is to get paid first, you would just want to, as the order person or the procurement person, you'd want to make sure that, this is paid before you go ahead and place the order. But this is great because what I can do is I can actually send a PO to a vendor, but I can also do what a lot of people do, which is just track a payment that I made online. So oftentimes we might be logging in to an account and sort of sending over those invoices. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to add in sort of an example receipt here. So ignore the fact that it is not exactly matching. But what you're going to do is look at that sort of receipt from your vendor. You're going to match the prices. You can see this one has a custom product fee on it as an example. So you can always come in and you can link it to the scope. So this is for the shower floor in the bathroom. I can actually search for this. Shower floor. Maybe it's the grout that comes with this or something like that. So we're going to switch that to a product. It's grout, and we're going to go ahead and enter the quantity. We're going to say it's $40. And we're actually we didn't estimate our square foot on this one, so we'll change it. So you can, adjust these numbers to make sure that it matches exactly what's on the PO or the invoice from your vendor, and make sure that that's all linked up. If you just place this order online, you can actually screenshot the receipt and drag it in. So that's really easy as well. And now we're going to confirm this. And in this moment, because we were placing it online, we've gone, made a purchase on a website, we're actually going to go ahead and record a payment. Now, this is really effective if you have the QuickBooks Online integration. It's going to sync up to your banking feed. It's going to reconcile that if you select your purchasing method. So let's say I use my Amex for this. When that comes through as an expense with that card being linked in QuickBooks, it's all going to reconcile. So again, we have extensive tutorials on purchase orders for labor and all of that. We're not going to cover everything today because we're coming up on time, but just know that that is in here and it's all very connected. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done, and then I'm going to hit save. And when I do that, it's actually going to ask me if I want to change the status of this to ordered. And in this case, I absolutely do, because I don't want to have to go do that manually. So I'm going to just go ahead and mark that as ordered. So again, if I come over to my selections workspace, or if I view the product in my scope of work here, you'll see that that order status is there. That's going to keep everyone on the team up to date on what's happening, where things are at, how are things moving along. Now, if let's say we get an email that this item has shipped, I'm going to go ahead and go in and I'm going to track the shipment here. And again, you could do that manually in the other space, but this is really great because if you have multiple items on an order, you can always come in and just say that a few of them shipped. Let's say just today, the tile shipped, but the grout didn't ship. So I can uncheck that. Or maybe I'm only getting a couple boxes of this, whatever it might be. I can say that this specifically has shipped. And when I save that, again, it's going to ask me if I want to update the status. So I'm going to do yes on that. And then if I go over to my timeline, you'll see that the shower floor is scheduled for delivery. So we didn't even get into timelines yet, but all of those deliveries and the statuses are going to show up right here on your timeline. You can click the tracking link very easily. You can see history on the item. So this is a very effective way to sort of see those deliveries in sort of a timeline view. All right, so I think we are coming up on time. I'm going to go a few more minutes over. Hopefully everyone has time here, but that is ordering. Again, if you have further questions about ordering, please check out our YouTube channel. We have specific quick tutorials on those sort of use cases. And then the last thing I'm going to touch on today is timeline. So we are about to launch a new tutorial in timelines that's a little bit more robust and intense, but I do want to make sure that we kind of cover this in this quick demo. Timelines in Materio are a great way to think about, how the project is going to happen. How long is it going to take? What are the phases we're going to go through? And you can actually build out custom templates in here. So we don't have templates built in, but as you start your first timeline, you can save it as a template. So let's say I want to do this design template that I've built out. I can use that, and you'll see that I already have all of these phases, these work phases, with the to-dos, or what we call planned task, under those phases. So you may say, okay, every time we do client onboarding, we're doing client intake, we have send the contract, get it signed, send a retainer, make sure the retainer is collected. And you can actually go in and assign that to different people on your team, whether that's you or someone else. So you can kind of say, all right, Emily's going to take care of all of these, and then I'm going to take care of, sending the retainer. And so very easily you start to build out predetermined tasks that your team needs to do each time. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of these planned tasks and sort of thinking about these phases and building out these templates, is because you can reuse them, and that creates efficiency. Now, when it comes to task management in Materio, your tasks on this project are going to show up here at the top in this little task widget. You can add in new task here, and those will show up automatically assigned to you if you create them. You can also then reassign them to someone else, and they'll clear out of your task list up here, but they will show as other tasks on the project in general, in case things fall behind. Emily's not meeting the due date, all of that, you can go in and reassign that to someone else. You can also always click on any task in Materio and add more information like notes, notify certain people when it's completed, upload attachments, let's say return labels or initial sketches that you want to turn into an actual floor plan. So this is really effective for just having information on those tasks. And then we've got the Gantt style view over here with the bars where we can kind of scale the timelines back, account for working days or not. All of that is here. So be sure to check out the longer tutorial on timelines. And I think that'll answer most of the questions. And if not, obviously you can reach out to us and we'd be happy to talk. Okay, I've covered a lot. I've breezed through it all. I think some of the key things I just want to recap is building out your scope of work, connecting it to those floor plans, being able to click on these items and see exactly what is going to be there. Once you've got all your products in, building out product boards, in a drop of a hat, just super quick to get your clients' approval on those. Obviously, we encourage efficiency and we're trying to eliminate waste here. So making sure that we are all tracking our time. I should have started that at the beginning of my demo. All tracking our time. You can do that against certain categories of work. You can kind of manage these activities as a team. So if you want to track very specifically against certain activities on projects, you can do that. You can also track against company time, like training or updating the website or posting to social media. All of that is there, billable or not. And then I didn't show this, but when you add to an invoice, you can just drop those hours in. You can format them in different ways. So for the firms who are doing hourly billing, this is a dream. It makes it so easy to just throw that on an invoice and get paid for it. And it's also a great way to just make sure your team is accountable. And if you're doing flat fee, we didn't go over this, but you can actually add in your design services here. You would make this a service item and you could say, it's a flat fee, or you could estimate we have 100 hours on this project and our hourly rate is an average of, $150. And you can remove the tax and shipping, the tax and markup there. And we've got a $15,000 fee. You can also just do a flat fee. And again, even if you're doing flat fee, we want you to be tracking your time. You want to make sure that you're actually coming out on top. So all of that is there. Again, so much more to cover. We didn't go into expenses. We didn't go into the performance tab here. We didn't go into change orders and things like that. We would gladly speak to you if you want to learn more. So after this demo, if you still have questions, definitely sign up for a free trial. That's the best way to play with Materio. When you do that, you'll get a sample project in your account that you can literally manipulate and add things and play around with. And obviously trying it out with a new project that's coming up soon, getting a feel for it, getting your team in there. Most people love it. They say it's really intuitive. So definitely give it a try. No credit card required on that one. And then if you have more questions, reach out to us at hello@materio.co. We would be thrilled to talk to you. We love to talk to our customers and our potential customers. And we're really excited to have you curious and learning about Materio. So everyone have a great day.